This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom. Words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I hope that you'll consider this like your vitamin or supplement for your heart and mind. And however and wherever you download podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom and leave a rating and a brief review? And above all else, will you tell your friends and neighbors about Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? Thank you very much. Today, let's talk about problem solving. Problems are as much a part of life as the air we breathe. They are just as much a fact of reality as the law of gravity and the fact that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. But most of us get tripped up in life over the problems of life that we all face. And if you're a leader, and you are, whether you're leading in your home or at work or at church or in a volunteer organization, but most importantly, you should be leading yourself. Problems are going to be a major part of why you are where you are. The first thing that I want to say about problem solving to each and every one of us is to deal with problems, you must have a strong purpose. Who are you? Whose are you? Why are you where you are? And you are there to make a difference. And one of the differences that you're going to make is you're going to help lead yourself, your family, your friends, your co-workers, your organization. You're going to lead them through the problems that they have. Oftentimes, folks will look at someone who they have described and deemed as successful. And they take this idea that, well, successful people must not ever have the problems. Every time I turn around, there's a new problem to look at, a new problem to attempt to solve. Successful people are not people without problems. They are simply people who have learned to solve the problems and to solve their problems as they arise. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make just 2 or 3 more statements about problem solving in the general. And then I'm going to give you 6 steps that I use to solving problems. And then I want to spend just a couple of moments talking about the kinds of skills that are needed in order for you to solve problems in your life, in your home, in your organization where you work. So let me just say one thing that helped me. I read it some time ago, and that is when there's a problematic situation, a problematic circumstance that I'm facing, when I'm journaling, I just get alone, and I'm a person of faith, so prayer is involved in it as well. But on a sheet of paper or in my journal, I write at the top of the list, at the top of the page, 20 ways I can improve my current situation. I'm talking about especially one that's filled with problems or very problematic. And this is some of the hardest thinking that I ever do, because we all fall into a trap of only solving problems in 1 or 2 ways. Now, oftentimes, if the only tool in your toolbox is a hammer, then you see every problem as a nail. But if you will spend some time in prayer, meditation, reflection, and even be outlandish if you have to be, by the time I get to number 20, I'm running on empty. I've about exhausted anything that I can think of that in any way can improve. The reason this exercise is so important, and even if you can only list 10 or 8 or 14 instead of 20, but try for 20, is it gets me outside of my comfort zone of my usual way of dealing with difficulties. And I have been surprised as I have worked my way through and begin to look at the problem and look for solutions in ways that for me are more creative than what my default position would be. And there have been oftentimes that as I've forced myself to think creatively, to try to list what are the possible solutions to this problem. Sometimes it's one of the last ones I come up with when I feel like I'm running out of emotional gas. But it forces me. And oftentimes I'll go back to my first or second way of working my way through it. But it gives me some clarity of saying there might be other approaches. And in a moment I'm going to tell you it's from this exercise that I can also help to have some material for a contingency plan. So try to get as many ideas as you can. Whoever I had listened to or read said 20, and 20 really stretches me beyond where I would ever go myself. And so the real exercise is, even if you can't come up with 20, come up with more than just one or two. And this will take, when you're going to solve a problem, you have to be 100% committed to solving the problem and 100% committed to thinking creatively about how do I get through this particular problem. All right, let me give you the 6 steps that I walk through, that I go through when myself or the organization or the entity that I work with, when we are facing a problem. The very first thing, number 1, is define the problem. What is the problem? Now you'll say, well, we know what the problem is. Do you really? Oftentimes we think we know what the problem is, and a lot of times we're treating a symptom rather than the problem. If morale is low in your organization, it's a great thing to buy everyone ice cream, but that hasn't solved the root problem. That may have raised morale in the moment, and I think that's what we do with a lot of our problems. We never get to the heart of the issue, what the real problem is, because we're just really treating symptoms and not getting to the root problem. So when I sit down to define the problem, and I believe this is an exercise you need to do while writing, is give yourself clarity. Is the problem really what I feel the problem is, or what I think the problem is? Have I really studied it? Is there more things going on than what I'm aware of? And don't just say the problem is I need to fire everyone, or the problem is we need more money. Yeah, that's true. But I think oftentimes, if we're just treating the symptom, the problem will continue to rear its head often and will get uglier the longer it goes on. So the very first thing is, even if you believe you are judgment day sure of what the problem is, sit down on a sheet of paper and actually write out the definition. What is exactly going on in this situation? To give yourself clarity, it gets you to the root, and you make sure that you're, again, not just treating the symptoms. The second thing that I do when I'm seeking to become a problem solver in a given situation is, the next question I ask is, who is involved? Oftentimes as the leader, we believe we're the only ones, and maybe another culprit or two are involved in the problem. But who is involved? Is this a personnel issue? Is this a corporate governance issue? Is this a personality issue? Who all is involved, and who will I need to bring in to assist and help in the problem solving? Maybe another way to ask that second question is, who is affected? I think oftentimes leaders, we fail to understand that as we go through life solving problems, there are more folks affected than just ourselves. So sit down and you begin to say, who is involved in this? Who do I need to bring in? How do we need to work through this? If we make this decision or we go this direction, who all is affected? You cannot avoid that. Even if you don't do the exercise, doesn't mean you escape the reality of this. Or someone is always involved, and someone is always going to be affected adversely or positively. But you need to have some of that in mind as you begin working your way through the problem. The third question really goes back to that 20 ways to improve, 20 ways to solve a problem, is list the possible solutions. Now, I do this in a problem-solving section in my journal, and believe it or not, it's one of the larger portions in my journal, because problems are why I have the position I have, I guess. And I list the possible solutions. There, I can do this. This is the one that's most obvious to me. I can go there. I can say that. I can do that. I can make this happen. Okay, that's all good. But let's list a few more solutions. This is going back to the 20 ways to solve a problem. If you can't find 20, maybe there are only 3 or 4. I get that. But list all of the possible solutions. Run them through your filter. Run them through your mind. How might this happen? So I have to define the problem, to give me clarity, to get to the root, not just treat the symptoms. I have to ask, besides myself, who all's involved and who will be affected by whatever decisions are made. Then the third, again, is list the possible solutions. You know, the reason you need to list and you need to define the problem is because a problem well defined, said someone, is a problem half solved. You can't really solve the problem till you know what indeed is the problem. And who's involved and who's affected is that helps us because we can't solve problems with the same thinking that created them. And more than likely, some of the reasons we're in this problem is no one went through the exercise of seeing who does this hurt and who does this help. The fourth step would be evaluate your options. Now you've listed the solutions. Now evaluate your options. What do you think is the best course? What do you believe you should be doing? It's at this point where people try to think, well, I'll just let it ride and time heals things. That is wrong when it comes to problems. Most problems become exaggerated and worse and almost grow exponentially if left unattended. Every problem is a gift, and without them we wouldn't grow. I don't like problems any more than you do, but as I look back in the times of my life when I was dealing with major issues and major problems, I have to testify those are the times when I grew both as a person, as a follower of Jesus Christ, and as a problem solver. It is a gift because it stretches us, it gets us beyond ourselves, and it helps us to grow. So you have to evaluate your options. The fifth thing that I do is I prepare contingencies, because I do not care what great plan you come up with for problem solving. I don't care how well you think you're going to take care of all of this. Everything doesn't flow the way it does sitting at a table writing with a pen on a piece of paper. There'll be things that pop up you could never think of if you spent the rest of the year thinking your way through that problem. So you have to prepare contingencies. Okay, if this is the way I'm going and this doesn't work, then I may need to go this direction of another way that I saw to solve it. I have learned, and maybe the best thing of going through this exercise for me has been my contingency plans. If this thing that I believe is the best solution doesn't work out, then this is my fallback, and this is my fallback number 2. Develop some contingency plans, because oftentimes you will need that. What you have decided to do will not work always as well as you think it will. And let me give you the sixth one that I think is important. Select the solution you're going to follow, and then act on it. A lot of people can do the thinking and do the writing and do the trying to get to the root problem. They can list the possible solutions, who's involved, who's going to be affected. They evaluate the options. They prepare beautiful contingency plans. They just never do anything. You have to execute a plan, or it's not a plan, and the problem will not be solved. So if you're going to be a problem solver, after you've done all this spade work of thinking and planning and dreaming, you're going to have to take action. What are the skills that are needed? Let me give you 5 or 6 of them. First of all, you need listening. That's when you get to the point of asking who's involved. Bring them in and listen to them. Some of the best ways of solving problems are ideas I got because I listened to others who were also living with the problem, and they had some ideas and solutions that I would never have come up with. And so one of the positive skills for being a problem solver is the ability to listen and listen actively. Another skill that you're going to need to develop if you're going to be a problem solver is the ability to do analysis, to look at all the possible scenarios, to understand the problem inside and out, understand all of the possible things you can do, and analyze which would be the best that you can use. I think number 3 would be creativity. I don't believe that I was born with a very large dose of creativity, but I'm here to tell you it can be learned. And it again is learned by doing proper analysis of a problem and listening to others, reading, studying, talking to mentors and accountability partners. It's very helpful. The fourth thing that you're going to need to do and must do if you're going to be a problem solver, and that is you must be able to do a little research and study. Don't just take the problem at the surface. Research it. Where did it come from? Why are we in the situation that we're in? How did we get here? What decisions or lack of decisions caused us to be at this point? and then the ability to quiet yourself, get in a corner, put your head down, and study the situation and be able to make decisions. That leads me to my next one, which is decision making. At the end of the day, you can only analyze for so long. You can only listen for so long. You can only research and study something for so long. There comes a point where you have to throw your head back, your shoulders back rather, and say, this is the way we're going, and we're going to do that. Remember, you have to have a strong purpose. You are where you are today because you have been asked to solve problems. So I would say to you today, wherever you are, sit down. There's a problem. All kinds of things popped into your minds as you have listened to this podcast. Why don't you follow these exercises to find the problem? Who's involved? Who's affected? List the possible solutions. Evaluate your options. Always prepare some contingencies if your plan doesn't go well. And select the solution that you're going to follow and then execute and act on it. Leader, this is why you are where you are, and I'm going to pray that this problem-solving exercise and the problem you're facing right now is going to grow and stretch you to be a leader at the next level. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal-setting, productivity, and today, problem-solving. Leader, you're doing better than you think you are, and until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying, have a great and blessed day.